What's happening, guys? And welcome back to the channel. And last night, England were back in competitive action for the first time since the Euro 2020 final, where they travelled to Budapest to take on Hungary in a World Cup qualifier, eventually running out 4-0 winners with goals from Raheem Sterling, Harry Kane, Harry Maguire, and Declan Rice. But unfortunately, events off the pitch in the stands overshadowed what took place on the pitch again, with more racist chanting and unsavoury scenes, throwing cups, etc., onto the pitch, which we will come on to, George. But in terms of the lineup, briefly, I think the strongest available lineup, the same back five, another clean sheet for Jordan Pickford, and that defence, Rice and Phillips in midfield. And then, George, I don't want to be cynical, but I'm going to say it. Surprise, surprise, Jack Grealish, after his move to Manchester City, suddenly starts a competitive game for England. Is that being unfair on Gareth Southgate, or is that actually him kind of lying when he says he picks players on form? He just picks them on who they play for, because I don't think Grealish is necessarily in any better form right now than he was at Aston Villa.
Right, well, for anyone who hates Gareth Southgate, I recommend that you subscribe to our channel, because we've got one sitting right next to me here, which is Southgate can't do any right in your eyes. For me, I think Grealish is overrated. Again, I don't see anything from last night that blew me away or gives him credit to start. Sterling scores, Grealish doesn't. That's now 13 games without a goal for Jack Grealish in an England shirt. I mean, his City start has been decent, but yeah, I think one of Gareth Southgate's probably downfalls is he probably does get pressured into these decisions, or feels as though he hasn't got the bottle to drop them because it makes more headlines if Grealish wasn't in the starting 11. But if you're looking on form, you probably have to say that Grealish has to play, because he's been 8 out of 10 most weeks in the Premier League since he started. So I'll give him that. But yeah, you just need to tone it down with Gareth Southgate, makes this again. We win 4-0, and he can't do any right. And even though he starts Jack Grealish, he was screaming for, all of a sudden it's still just annoying for you. So I'm not sure, but yeah,
no, I'm not a Southgate hater. I just think it's a little bit. I just think it's a bit ironic and a little bit, double standards. But I mean, I think a lot of people think that as well. But regardless of that, we got the result done. Again, Raheem Sterling seems to be on fire in an England shirt at the moment. But George, it was pretty routine for England. Hungary didn't really put up any challenge whatsoever, and a fairly comfortable victory, which is what we've come to expect with England in qualification games.
Yeah, here we go again. It's hard to pick ourselves up after the romanticism of what was an amazing summer for England football fans. To come again and go through these qualifiers, which no one really cares about. It's difficult to watch sometimes, and that first half was kind of back to shitty old England, really. So boring, slow, hard to break a team down. If anyone's seen the goals or watched it, I mean, they were so amateur. The goalkeeper should save pretty much all of them. They were right by him, just terrible. But yeah, it's all about just getting the job done. I mean, if there was a quicker way to just knock out these qualifiers, it would be suited for all the so-called bigger international sides. But yeah, like you said, mate, in the intro, the most important aspect of that game was not the result, but actually what overshadowed it, sadly, which we'll come on to. But yeah.
I mean, George, I just think it's a massive shame that yet again, well into 2021, we are still discussing racism from the crowd. I mean, I don't want to label it at any specific countries, because it does happen everywhere. We can't condemn what's happened in Hungary when you look at what goes on in this country. The fact that we've got our own fans booing the knee, the fact that before the Euros final we basically tried to destroy our own national stadium. So it's important to put that into perspective, that we can't just sit on our high horse and chuck stones at everyone else, when actually not everything's rosy in our own garden in regards to racism, and we need to do a lot more as a country as well. But I think, the predictability of the booing of the knee was inevitable. George, just briefly before I carry on, what are your thoughts on the booing of the knee?
Disgraceful. The thing is, even if you don't agree with it, just respect it that other people are doing it. I'm not saying that they have to take the knee, because that's a personal choice, but there's no need to boo it. Just like the national anthem, just grow up. Like, at the end of the day, it's a bit of respect. You don't see it in any other sports, really. You wouldn't see it in tennis. You wouldn't see it in rugby, where they're booing the other team's national anthem, or if they were doing a protest. And these people are just so ignorant. They don't understand what it means. And they even came out and said, because I was listening to the commentary, that they would take action for any booing. They don't want them to boo. What happens? Referee blows his whistle, take the knee. The other team doesn't, and there were boos everywhere. And the saddest part of it is nothing's going to be done about it. And it's just, this is why it happens, because there's no punishment whatsoever. But, even the close-ups of these fans doing, the monkey chants, and it's what's being done about it? Nothing has changed.
Yeah, I think that's the massive problem. Another big problem is, obviously, these are the same Hungarian fans that at the European Championships, for using homophobic and racist chanting, got 2-match ban for the fans for the Hungary games. Yet FIFA didn't carry that into the qualifier, so these same fans were allowed in to then abuse the England players. So I think FIFA and UEFA need to work together as a collective. The fact you've dished out a 2-match ban, but then you don't put that into action in the World Cup qualifiers, it doesn't make sense to me. It's all a bit of a shambles. And as you say, mate, until the punishment fits the crime, this is going to keep on happening. I think it has to get to the stage now where the game's abandoned. Secondly, if you're caught doing it, that's your team thrown out. That's it. Hungary, you're out the qualifiers. You can't, even if you qualify for the World Cup, you're done, or you're banned for the next 2 tournaments, because that's where it's going to hurt the fans not being able to watch their team in these games. But until that happens, it's still going to be a problem. I mean, can you think of any solutions? Because it's mad that we're still talking about this. It's almost as bad as it was back in the dark days of the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, mate, I agree. I think they have to do something that's more serious. The only issue I've got with chucking them out is the uncontrollables from the team, and the national team can do everything right, and unfortunately you can't control some idiots who are just spectators of coming in or whatever. So I think that's a little bit harsh, because as a nation they could all do the right things and still get punished. The other 2 alternatives, of course, are points deductions. So in these qualifiers, they just get, either the bans, or, you just put them on a minus. So they've theoretically got no chance of qualifying. And I don't know. Obviously, you kick these fans out if they're seen on camera. If you can identify them, they should never be able to go to a match again. But maybe you're right, mate. Maybe kick them out of the tournament. I mean, maybe that is the only way for them to realise that it's not acceptable at all. And but these organisations just haven't got the bottle to do it, have they? This is the problem.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. It really is. The fact that we're throwing, pathetic fines, maybe like 10,000 euros at a National Football Association, it's nothing. It doesn't do anything whatsoever. And it really is a big problem. And I don't know how we're gonna combat this. You shouldn't, like Jude Bellingham, 18-year-old boy, warming up for an international football match. That should be an experience of a lifetime for him. And the fact that he's got to put up with monkey chants from the crowd from uneducated idiots is just, it's not on. And until FIFA and UEFA clamp down on this, you have to take the harshest action possible to stamp out the problem. If you just kind of pussyfoot around it, chuck out a few pathetic fines here and there, you're almost kind of just giving it acceptance that it's all right. I always refer to an incident where Nicholas Bentner got fined more money because he showed some boxes with Paddy Power logo on it in a goal celebration than football associations got fined for racist chanting. I mean, that cannot be right. So, football's got a long way to go still. It was great to see England, silence those racists by some great pictures of Declan Rice sipping from the cup and Jack Grealish as well, which I thought was great. But yeah, it's a shame that once again, the great performance on the pitch from England is overshadowed by talking about racism yet again. But, until we have to wait and see what action's taken, what can be done to try and eradicate this problem. But, England win 4-0. It's another step closer to World Cup qualification. And we head back to Wembley for the first time since that Euros final, where we take on the mighty Andorra on Sunday evening. So, I mean, England should be able to run up double figures in that one, but it remains to be seen, guys. But yeah, as always, make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you smash a like on the video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next one.